Imagine giving your clients instant access to trade any private asset, from real estate to private shares, from funds to bonds. You got it! Private markets are 100 times bigger and more complex than crypto. On the supply side, there are dozens of tokenized asset sources, implementing different blockchains, metadata, and flows to solve different use cases and regulations. On the distribution side, there are banks, exchanges, and broker-dealers all over the world. How do we connect them all? The financial industry came together to design FinP2P, an open-source routing and settlement protocol, which Ownera is deploying. Asset sources plug in and simply publish their assets. Ownera aggregates and normalizes the flows and data, giving financial institutions a single API for all digital securities. The result? Assets get global digital distribution and liquidity. Investors get online access to investments, secondary liquidity, and loans against any private digital security. Come on board Ownera, where we take away the enormous complexity of trading private securities from across the industry by giving your clients a unified digital securities wallet.
So next up, it's time for a keynote presentation. And actually, liquidity in the markets have been a huge challenge consistently, but moreover in the past week especially. So I'm going to hand it over to Ownera's Ami Ben David just to give a little bit of a talk and hear the presentation. Thank you.
Hi again, everyone. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a description of what we're doing at Ownera. I'm waiting for the presentation to come up. Cool. So I'll take it quickly, and these are things that I think many of you have heard from me before, but I'm going to put a new spin on it so you can see some information, some new information. Now, the message that we're coming in with Ownera is that actually all financial institutions are going to start adopting digital securities and digital transformation on a global scale, but it goes beyond that. Because today, all the accounts in the financial ecosystem are accounts that are not connected to each other. They're not digital, and therefore the financial industry built over 50 years a whole spaghetti of technologies that interconnect those accounts and allow them to actually trade with each other. Now, the digital transformation enables something new. It enables basically all financial accounts to be digital. Effectively, every account can have an address. Every account can be signed by the client or their custodian, and therefore every digital wallet can trade with every other digital wallet. And what we can reach is a world where all transactions are direct and instant between wallets, and everything in the middle can be redundant, and new markets can be created. And this is quite a big deal. Taking the whole financial ecosystem into the digital world is something that I think we learned from the world of crypto. But it's not the blockchain side, it's not the ledger side, it's actually the wallet size that is going to make the most impact. The changes of all the accounts, from traditional accounts that are connected through platforms like Swift and Visa and so on, into digital accounts that can actually trade with each other. And this is a big deal. Now, who needs to deploy these new digital accounts? I think the answer is that all financial institutions. Because a financial institution that doesn't deploy digital accounts, somebody else is going to deploy them. Tim was here earlier. Tim Draper was talking about how banks will be replaced by those new fintechs. Well, banks have to switch to digital accounts if they don't want other people to give digital accounts to their clients and basically take these clients away, because digital is that much more efficient. Now, what are you missing if you're not digitizing your markets? This is just a small taste of the market that can be digitized. We're all talking about crypto, maybe a $2 billion market. Just pre-IPO shares is $2.5 trillion. Money market funds and treasury, another $7.6 trillion. Institutional real estate, $6 trillion, just the institutional part of it. The actual real estate is in the $200+ trillion. Private equity funds, $9 trillion. And if you look at the slide, you can also see that it's not just the primary distribution that we are actually reimagining. It's also secondary liquidity, where in some of these assets, there's just no secondary liquidity at all, and if there is secondary liquidity, it takes 2 months to close a deal. And then you talk about lending and collateralization. Huge opportunity for the banks and for other financial institutions that is not accessible today. And once we're going digital, this is kind of what's at stake. Now, what does it take for every wallet to be able to trade any digital security, any security token with every other wallet? And I think that this is maybe a misconception that a lot of people who are coming from crypto are sharing with regards to digital securities. Because for a digital security for a wallet to actually trade digital securities, the wallet needs basically a way to access. And all of these different security tokens and digital securities that are coming from dozens and hundreds of sources all over the world, and actually be able to allow the client to trade them. So I'm kind of giving the answer early, and I'm saying, we are providing that unified API to whoever's building destinations, whoever's building wallets. And let me explain why this is needed. So, let's talk about what it actually takes to build a wallet that can trade any digital security, okay? Because we established that all financial institutions are going to give their clients wallets or digital assets, and they want to give them access to everything. Now, we are used to crypto, and crypto is really, really easy compared to digital security. Why? Because in crypto, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. There's no information about Bitcoin on Bitcoin itself. It's just the data that's on the chain. That's 100% of the data that you need in order to trade. So a wallet can be sold by Binance, and a wallet can be sold by Coinbase, and they can trade with each other. Thank you very much. Very, very easy. But when we're talking about digital securities are very complex. And this is really, as I said, the only slide that we actually need bullets for, because there's so much complication in digital securities that needs to be solved. First of all, it's a much bigger market, much more complex, much more diversity. It's very, very long tail. I mean, in crypto, most of the trade is in like 10 coins and then a few others. But in digital securities, every building, every real estate project, every fund, it's thousands and thousands of assets. Then, issuers and distributors have responsibilities. And the example I always give is very simple. If I send somebody Bitcoin from my wallet to their wallet, and it ends up that they're actually under sanctions, it's not my problem, right? I already sent it. But if I'm an issuer of digital securities and I send somebody some tokens and I sold the token and it ends up that they're under sanctions, it's my problem, right? I need to fix it. And somebody needs to make sure that on their wallet something happens to make sure to show them that they are on sanctions and they're basically frozen, right? So these are the sort of things that you have to take care of. Investor identity and status verification goes not just at the edges, it has to go all the way to the issuer, because the issuer needs to know who they're selling to. There's a lot of data. I spoke earlier with Pat here on stage. All the data they're collecting for private securities, it's not like public securities. The data is not just available on Yahoo, right? The data is published by the private company. And then if you don't have access to this private data, you can't trade. And this data in many cases is permissioned. It's not open to everybody. Sometimes legally, you're not allowed to show everybody the details of a certain offering without checking that they are kind of under the right regulatory regime, and that they have all the warrants and disclosures and so on. And I can keep going on and on, but I think you understand the picture. In order to trade, in order for a wallet to trade digital securities, the chain is maybe 10% of the problem. So everybody's talking about chain interoperability. If we solve chain interoperability tomorrow and we're not close to solving it, we would solve 10% of the problem that is needed in order to enable every wallet to trade every digital security with every other wallet. So what are we doing? So first of all, trying to move the next slide. So the problem is that actually there are dozens of tokenized asset sources, and there are a lot of tokenization platforms here, but many of the banks are building their own, many of the exchanges are building their own. There are tokenization for real estate, there are tokenization for private equity, there's tokenization for any type of securities that you can think about. And each one of them is solving the complexity differently, right? So effectively, if you have assets on one, if you're a user and you want to buy assets on 2 different platforms, you have to register separately with each one of them. And if there's a third, you have to register with the third as well. And if you're a destination and you want to build an exchange and you want to show all the digital securities, you would have to connect to 9, 10, 20 sources, and you're still not done, right? It's a mess. It's impossible to basically manage. And therefore, I think that you know, I described all the problems and all the issues, but I'm going to the good part. We've actually solved it. We're solving it now. There is a group of 80 financial institutions, runs under the GDF non-profit organization, working on an open source protocol called FinP2P. This group includes 80 of all the top banks are there, all the big exchanges that you can think about, all the major asset managers are in the group, and all the many fintechs in the space, legal firms and so on, meet every other month for the last almost 2 years, actually designing and building a protocol, a routing protocol that will enable everybody to trade everybody else's securities. Okay? And we're now getting very close to launching it. The chairpersons of the group are here, Anthony and Lavan. So if any of you is still not on the group, although I recognize like half the faces from the group already, if any of you is not on the group and you want to be on the group, then speak to one of them. And you know, it's open. And this group basically published FinP2P. You can search it on Google. It's open source. And effectively what it does, it allows us at Ownera to be basically deploying a FinP2P-based network. And the way that the network is working, if you look at the sketch, is that all the assets are connecting to this central network in the middle, the green kind of layer. It's basically like a pipeline. And all of these assets publish their assets to the pipeline. The pipeline aggregates and normalizes everything, not just the crypto side of things, not just the blockchain side of things, but also the off-blockchain, and also the flows and the regulatory structures, and allowing each one of the wallets on the other side to see every security from all of the underlying players that are in this environment. So this is the idea here. It's not a blockchain. It's a routing and settlement system. It routes the transaction from the wallet to the correct platform where the asset sits, and it can create settlements between asset that sits on one blockchain and payment mechanism sits on another. Earlier, the congressman talked about CBDCs, but we're not there yet, and you know, maybe we won't get there. But it could be stable coins, it could be treasury coins, many ways of settlements. This platform supports them all. And effectively at Ownera, what we do is we use the FinP2P protocol to aggregate, normalize all the data, all the flows, and give wallets or destination or exchanges a single API where they can give the client one address and they can trade all the assets underneath. And we will bring them everything they need, the on-chain data, the off-chain data, the information from, from Invenium that is going to cover all the data about the private assets, as well as the regulatory regimes and structures. And through a single API, you can do this. So if you're building a wallet today, you can go to companies like Fireblocks, and they will give you an API that will give you crypto. They'll give you, you'll be able to trade through their APIs Bitcoin, you'll be able to trade DeFi, you'll be able to trade NFTs. But if you want your wallet client to trade private securities, you connect to the Ownera API utilizing FinP2P and you'll get all the assets. So I think this is the equivalent here. And crypto, as I said before, is a $2 trillion market. The market that we are approaching is at least 100 times bigger when distribution is available. And all of you here are actually launching assets, will be able to distribute to the entire market. So I'm way beyond time, so I'll just finish with, what's in it for the assets tokenizer? Well, global distribution. In fact, if you tokenize with any tokenizer today, any tokenization engine has less than 2% market share. That's the reality. So you're effectively distributing to 2% of the potential market. But if you tokenize and you connect your platforms to the Ownera FinP2P network, you can reach a much larger distribution audience, much better liquidity, many more options for collateralization and loan and so on. And the other way around, if you look at the wallet providers get a seamless API that connects them to every security that is coming in underneath. And I think that this sort of network is really what this market needs in order to grow. Because we're not going to get liquidity when every tokenization platform is siloed and reaches 2%. But when everybody can trade with everybody, we can take this market and make it digital. So if any of you wants to connect, I'm around here. I'm available at ami@ownera.io or LinkedIn, on Twitter. And feel free to contact me, and we'll take it from there. So a little bit over time, but I covered everything. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm still around the whole day and happy to talk to everyone. Thank you.